Join Samantha and Hans at the next Macro to Micro Options Power Hour, held each Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration is free. Scan this QR code or click on the link in the description.
This day is kind of important on a lot of different levels, even though most don't expect much from it. I actually am really thinking this is a big stage for Trump to either follow through on his threats or to weaken. And if he does not follow through because of whatever reason, then he could be absolutely seen as a weak leader and lose a lot of negotiating points and leverage. So one of the things that I have been thinking about very much is the reason for the season of these tariffs. And we've heard lots of different reasons, right? We've heard he wants to have other countries remove their tariffs against us, meaning the US. Seems like a noble cause and seems very fair and seems like, he could pull that one off. But then he used a whole bunch of backdrop of fentanyl coming across the borders. That was a really big reason for Canada and Mexican tariffs, regardless if Canada was to remove their tariffs against the US, which was intonated this morning by your guy there, Ford, in Ontario. So while he was also speaking against a backdrop that said Canada is not for sale, Trump has also said he really wants the revenue. So he wants to do these tariffs in order to make money for the US. It's a negotiating tactic to annex Canada. I'm sorry, you are there and you hear all the hubbub. I really think it has a lot to do with the timing of the 2017 tax cuts getting extended. And in fact, his GOP does not have the votes to actually pass this. So it's very, very interesting that at the same time they're about ready to vote on the tax cuts and the debt ceiling, they are actually also negotiating tariffs on the same day. So it's very much a political stunt. And there are tons of other reasons, corroborating evidence that we can pick. And everyone has their own little mantra of what works best. But ultimately, I do see Trump following through on tariffs, long story short. And this is one of the big reasons for my continued thesis that equities will be under pressure. 2025 will be the year of volatility and that we will have a lower dollar and yields over time. I'm talking about US 10-year. So for right now, we're waiting on Trump basically regardless of what happens today on the global stage. We have not really gotten through is this channel of chop. And in fact, when we titled this on Monday, Mercurial Market Turns Chaotic, it's because we really have gone nowhere fast, but underneath the surface, it has continued to weaken. So Hans, I wanted to kind of throw it over to you after kind of getting through that. Yes, it's tariff day, but we don't have a resolution on that just yet. And then, of course, the market has bounced since the Monday gap down, which is kind of typical oversold behavior. And we made it right up into my 5690.62 level, which was actually an hourly gap fill. So now what? Where are we going from here?
Well, I think it was, again, as to be expected. We had this big downdraft. We ran into the freight train. We reversed back down, as was probably to be expected on a technical basis. And then we kind of ran through the collar strike. So we talked about that JPM collar. So we ran through that collar strike, which was inconsequential up around 5,800. But suddenly it made a big difference again around probably 56.25, 56.30. Suddenly the deltas start rising on that put. Dealers have to sell. Everybody else has to sell. Everybody front runs. And then sure enough, here we are. We went down and made those new lows. And I put out a note that day saying, I thought the next day would be, we'd get more stability, because once that disappears, you're taking away some of that negative gamma, that sort of accelerant, that sort of fire starter type situation where the market really needed that to kind of get restructured. So now there's that new collar. It's out there. It's not making a difference in any possible way. But the new collar actually has people, basically there's some deltas to sell. So they have to sell the market down a little. And
we show that one, by the way, because I've got that chart just in anticipation of you discussing it. So here we are. So it's
the collar. Yes. The collar heard around the world. Yes. That's the big collar. So they've got a few different versions, but it's over $20 billion of notional. And that's pretty big. That's a lot of positive gamma that comes back into the market. So that was a little bit stabilizing once that disappeared, right? So whether this made a massive difference or not, it's a piece of the puzzle these days, with these things being more important than ever. And so that was it. So we sort of cleared the table a little bit, had a little bit of a bounce in there. And I think, but you're still seeing quite a bit of steep skew on the index index side, on the individual stock side. So that's what could actually give us, maybe before we resume a trip down towards 5,000, potentially we get a little bit of a move back up. Just if they take, it'll be interesting to see how much vol they take out of this event, because right now you can see the vol's exceptionally high compared to normal, particularly going into Friday's data and everything. We're seeing sort of higher than normal. So that's what I'll be watching. What's the option pricing doing after today? If it relaxes, it's going to tell me that this was the event that we were waiting for, and that the rest of this week will be of less consequence, which I'm not sold on. I think we've got Powell, we've got some more data coming out, jobs, claims. And so that's going to be important as well, because of course now, if we look at some of the things that we showed last time, which was this expectation of December versus now, which was no landing to hard landing. We have gone right to the other side, which is worried very much about this growth scare, worried about unemployment potentially
Speaking of
rising.
a growth scare, Trump announces U.S. reciprocal tariff plan, says that he will sign it in a few minutes and it will be reciprocal around the world. Yeah, it's exactly what he says, for now.
Yeah, for now, exactly.
Canada, Mexico, not subject to reciprocal tariffs for now.
There's some big damage being done here. It's something to behold.
All right. Well, we're definitely at the whims of the Trump administration pushing tariffs. There's no question. The question is when we can get certainty about the amount and the rollout. So right now, we've got some evidence here that they are definitely following through. So he has not caved. He still needs those tax cuts and the 50 votes and the GOP and all that jazz. So we'll see what happens, but not for Canada or Mexico. And can I tell you, I bet that was a negotiation. I bet you anything, because the senators, the folks that are most hit by the Canadian tariffs are the ones who were speaking out the loudest to Trump, saying, I'm not going to get reelected in 17 months.
Yeah.
You're hurting us. I bet you anything. This is all political. This is completely political. He wants his 50, he wants his tax cuts pushed 2017 continued at come hell or high water. And that's why he's letting Mexico and Canada go right now. No guarantees once he gets that vote. But for right now, that's how it works. Rest of world is getting the brunt, and that means China in large.
Join Samantha and Hans at the next Macro to Micro Options Power Hour, held each Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration is free. Scan this QR code or click on the link in the description. Watch the full Options Macro to Micro Power Hour episode by clicking on the video here, and subscribe to LaDucTrading YouTube channel for more content.